Hey everybody, Matt Martin here with this week's Broker Minute or Two. Hey, a little travel down memory lane. For those of you old enough, when you were younger, if you went to the grocery store with your mom, quite often you'd see by the checkout stand several newspapers. They were like the National Enquirer and the Star and People, and it was really just, they were gossip rags, and they would expose what was going on in celebrities or politicians' lives. And apparently they sold a lot of them because they were there for a good long time. Well, we have something very similar in the real estate world, and it comes out every quarter from the Division of Real Estate. It is known as the quarterly newsletter. And listen, I want to say this, there's a lot of great information, and you really should review what comes out quarterly from the Division of Real Estate. And that's all these items here. But where a lot of agents go, and sometimes it's the only place they go, is the third quarter licensing and disciplinary actions. And it shows down here all of your peers that have been cited for violating Division of Real Estate rules and the fines that were exacted, or if their license was put on probation, or even if they lose their license. So not really too interested in the gossip component of it, but here's what's interesting is it shows us where the Division of Real Estate is currently concentrating their efforts with their 9 different investigators. So with that said, I'm going to put this on screen so I can show you. I'm going to go over 2 quick instances. A principal broker, not even just an agent, admits that buyer's earnest money deposit check was deposited into a title escrow account rather than into the brokerage trust account. So we've had this actually a couple times in our company. It's like, well, does it really matter? It's like, well, yeah, it does, because the contract is specific. The default is it's to go into a brokerage's trust account. If it's going to go anywhere else, you better have a paper trail. So that's issue number 1. Issue number 2, deposited 4 days after acceptance. More than 4 days after acceptance is required. So just to review that, you've got 4 days for your client to get it to you, and then once we get it, a new clock starts, and we have 4 days after we receive it to get it into our trust account. If we don't do that, then we need to notify the other side. So you may have gotten some messages from our office managers that we need to get paperwork to correct this if we went beyond the dates. And so it's not a trivial exercise. They care about this, so you should care. All right, and then the third one, he admitted that he was aware that the buyer had been working with another agent on a transaction, but failed to contact the other agent to determine if there was a prior agency agreement. So the division rule says that if you know or should have known that there was an agency agreement and you didn't find out and you worked with it, you're in violation of rules. The net of this was he was fined $3,000. Now, some people may not think that's a big deal, but there's a cumulative effect with this. If you keep getting brought before the Division of Real Estate, they start to evaluate whether you should have a license. Okay, on to number 2. This one, again, a principal broker. It's not just principal brokers, it's agents, just so you know, but the 2 I picked were principal brokers. Admits that he failed to obtain a written agency agreement. So I want to be clear with everybody here. The division rules, there's 2 of them in regards to this. It says when you start working as somebody's agent, and we could have a discussion about what that means, but I would say at a minimum, if you're taking them through a house that has a lockbox on it that the public can't access, you're acting as their agent. And you need to have your agency agreement in writing when you start acting as their agent. And then the second component is when you actually write a purchase offer, you're to confirm or reaffirm that agency. All right, so that's issue number 1. Issue number 2 was then he failed to deposit the earnest money into the brokerage trust account. And interestingly, on this one, apparently he must have deposited it somewhere else, like into his own account, because when the deal failed and he was required to pay the earnest money, he had to set up a payment plan with the people whose earnest money it was. The result was he was fined $10,000. All right, so these are just a couple of cautionary examples. So please pay attention to getting your agency agreements, getting earnest money in on time, and getting it in the right place. As usual, I'm always here to help. If you have specific contract questions, always happy to help, and let me know how I can do so. Have a great week.